Hello, how are you doing? Uh, is this okay? I realized that in my previous videos, my head would be cut off either at the bottom or at the top. Actually, I want to hide my double chin lah. That's also one reason why I cut it off. But it doesn't look good lah, you know, uh, because even though I'm looking straight, right, um, it, it feels like I'm looking away. So the lack of eye contact. Anyway, that's not important. Yeah. Today I would like to talk about friends, friendships, and also a bit about expectations. Yeah. So, right, I 30 years old now, and um, I have, I would say that I have three friends now. Yeah, three friends that if at any time I feel like I needed to talk to somebody, um, I would just text anyone off that list, you know. Um, yeah, and then I also realized one thing, that proximity of distance doesn't really determine how close you are to somebody. You can be somebody's next door neighbor and yet not be their friend, and you can have a friend that lives right the other um, right at the other end of the country from you, and still be your friend. So yeah, when I was younger, about up to 10 years old, um, I really didn't worry about not having friends. If anything, having friends was something that didn't really bother me. Yeah. If I could make a friend, I would make a friend. If I couldn't, then I couldn't. I wasn't your typical schoolboy back then, in the sense that I didn't participate in like those team sports that boys would normally do. I would prefer to just sit at the side and read a book or just watch people play. Yeah. So and you know as I grow older, I also realized that yeah, team sports is one way that guys bond lah, people bond, and I didn't have that. But at that time I was just satisfied. Then after when I hit 11 years old, uh, I was for a while I was very sick. Yeah, from the age 11 until about 2021, I fell sick. um, yeah, I'll talk about it more in another video, but basically because of that, I had to transfer schools and eventually drop out because of my long-term sickness. And dropping out of school at the age at mid mid-teens, I guess. So I didn't experience secondary school uh, like most others of my age at that time did. And naturally also I lost touch with the classmates that I had been studying with at that time. Uh, Even right now also, it's like as I look back also, there's a little bit of like what ifs, what if I had been with them, what if I had studied um, you know further with this group of people. Yeah, maybe I would be in touch with my classmates, my old classmates more. Yeah. I also go to church. I had to, you know I was sick at the age of 11, and then it wasn't only about 5 years, 6 years later that I actually went back to church. you know uh, and and after that, when I went back to church in when I was 16 or 17 years old, I realized that time had moved so fast that people that I knew from church before had grown up and moved on, and I was still in the same position that I was 6 years prior, because I haven't been to church and haven't interacted with any one of my peers at that time. Yeah. So then, when I enter into church, I knew next to nobody, because everybody that I've known already moved on. And if you were to ask anyone who met me for the first time, I had some feedback that, because I did ask before, I say, when you first saw me, what do you think it's like? I had feedback to say that some people say that, oh, I saw you just sitting in one corner, very quiet, which is opposite from what I shared in the previous video, right? About me being a talker and all that. Yeah, it's totally different. And yeah, so if you know the person that I was before, you know that if I'm in a group that I'm not familiar with, normally I will just sit in one corner and but then after you get to know me, that's where I start talking. And then that's also where the problem started, because when I first went back to church in 2007, right, at the age of 17 years old, then I wanted to make friends, right, which was different from the previously when I was 10 and younger, when I told you all that I was happy not to have friends. I was happy to be alone, sit one corner. But when I went back to church, somehow I had this desire to make friends. Perhaps because I knew that I had been away from a peer group for so long. And yeah, as a result of that desire, I started to find people that I thought that I could talk to. And I started to want to find out about them. And at the same time, I guess I also wanted them to reciprocate as well. Some of them did, most of them didn't. So that continued for a few years. Yeah. And I would say that, from 2007 on the way until maybe 2012 or 13, I had some people that were close to me for that 6 years of time. But then, as I shared in the previous video about friends dropping you when you talk too much or you want to find out too much, right? Unfortunately, that was in 2014, right, that I started to experience I had my first bad experience, I guess, where I had a friend who I thought I was close to. I had shared quite personal things with that friend, and then yet one day, out of nowhere, that friend decided that, or now I would say the former friend, decided that perhaps, I just wasn't worth his time. And yeah, and that to me was something that hit me very hard for a while. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you feel and think like you don't want to have the same experience again, but yet somehow you just do get the same experience. And I would say that history repeated itself just recently, just last year in fact, where I thought that somebody who could be my fourth friend, right? I have 3 friends now. That's the good part, right? Which will be shared after this. So I thought that that person could be my fourth friend. You know, we talked for a while. I felt that I knew that person for about less than 6 months actually, where one day, just one day things just went pear-shaped, and that person decided not to talk to me anymore. And the longer the lack of, talking, the longer there was no reason to talk anymore. And because I'm a kind of person who wants to see the good side of people, when people drop me from this friendship, I am a kind of person who tends to pursue, I guess, because I want to find out why. Like, why would you drop me? Like, why would you not want to be my friend? So, like from that friendship from now 6 years ago, for a while, I was texting that friend and say like, oh, can we meet up? And then the response I would get is, oh, why would you want to meet up, right? And the thing is, when I receive a response like that, where you have to give a reason to meet up, despite knowing that we had been friends for a long time up to that point, then it was very disappointing. And and it took me a very long time before I actually convinced myself that that friendship really wasn't, I guess, to put it simply, wasn't worth it lah. Since that person also didn't find worth in keeping me as a friend, so I finally had to let go. For this second friend of mine, the sort of like, this friendship is, to me, is unique, because with this friend, we actually fell out twice, and it was always me waiting for that friend to come back, because, as I've said, right, I'm a person that wants to look at the good of people. So initially, during the first fallout, I did my usual, like I would text and I want to find out like what's wrong. Then after that, like I stopped, because that person say, just give me some time away. And then a couple of weeks later, that person came back for some reason. They said that, oh, because I needed some time, and then I feel that now is enough time and maybe we can start talking. So I was like, okay, if you want to, we can be friends again, right? Then a couple of weeks later, or rather, I would say about a month later from there, then we fell out again. I even asked, the time we had a quarrel, and that quarrel was actually over WhatsApp. Then I asked, I said, you know, does that mean that you want to have a Cold War again, right? Like the first time, then the person say, yeah, I think that would be for the best. Then I was like, okay, then up to you, right? That the second time that we fell out, it wasn't less than a week later about so. Then the person came back, and you know, after a long conversation, then it's sort of like, okay, let's be friends again. Then I was like, okay, why don't we try and be friends again, right? And then yeah, and then just a while after that, just a few months later, about 1 or 2 months, I think it was even less than 2 months, about 1.5 months later, the person decided not to, it's just like one day, it's like, what happened, you know? But then when I asked what happened, the person just said, like, I don't care anymore. I don't care about anything else. Then I was like, yeah, in fact, this just happened like late last year, and honestly, I'm still healing. I've been envious of people who can say that they go back many, many years with friends, friends who have been from maybe some from primary school or earlier, all the way until they grow up. And I've always been envious of those kind. And but then, like I said, I also realized that it doesn't matter whether you are near or far. You can be so near to a person by proximity. You can be working the same place as the person, just right next to the person, and yet not talking. You can be studying in the same class as another person, but again, you can be sitting right next to a person, but then you're not talking. So distance doesn't really make a difference. Yeah. Yeah. But then, despite all of this, I'm glad that I can count 3 friends to be my friends. Friends who have been through my down times and my up times as well. Friends of mine are willing to stick with me even when I was down, and come to celebrate small victories with me as well, right? Like there's a friend who was in my diploma class, who I also don't know like what, because I'm a kind of person that me connecting with people is like the only thing that I can think about is, hey, let's hang out. And my version of hang out is, let's go eat a meal together, and that was what I did with that ex-schoolmate of mine. I just texted and I said, this yeah, and I said, hey, let's meet up for dinner one day after class. And then it just happened, right? It just happened, and then we just met up, and it really, like, it made me feel so happy, because yeah. And then the thing is, after meeting up the first time, I was like, you know, I would have this little habit of mine to ask to meet up again. And then, time just flew by, and before we knew it, it's like we would meet like maybe once every 6 months. Yeah. And you know, so it's really something that makes me very happy. Yeah. And we had this like just this kind of friendship, and I'm very happy for that. Then so that even 5 years later, right? Just last year, in fact, when we decided that we wouldn't be meeting up so often anymore because both of us had responsibilities. Then I also didn't feel bad about it, because it's sort of like, unlike the previous friendships where the friendships were ended on the terms of the other party, I felt this friendship of ours with me and this friend of mine is still maintained, and the reason why is because both of us had this mutual agreement, right? That it's not that we are not going to be friends anymore, it's just that we might not be able to meet up as much, yeah. So that's one friend. And then another friend of mine, this friend actually came to look for me. It was kind of weird because this friend, like we were in a church camp, and and this guy just appeared right in front of me, and then at that time I didn't know who he was. I really didn't know. And then he offered me a bottle of water. I still remember. Yeah. Uh, yeah. He offered me a bottle of water, and then he introduced himself. Then the first question I asked him was, "Oh, were you from that small group, many, many years ago, like 10 over years ago back in church?" Then he was like, "Yeah, I was." Then I was like, "Oh, I see." Yeah. So at that time, then somehow then we just connected, like reconnected, and even up to this day, we still keep in touch, um, so this is the second friend of mine. The third friend of mine, somebody who is not, as in, I also don't know how I can't remember how I got to know him. Perhaps it was another camp, or perhaps it was in a small group, but somehow we just connected. And one reason why we connected was because both of us like have this liking for playing computer games, right? And at that time we just talk about games, and then somehow, surprisingly, this friendship has lasted beyond just a friendship that, have two people that have the same hobbies. And and these three people are the people that I'm really, really thankful for, because these three people are the people that if anything goes wrong, or if anything I want to talk, anybody I want to talk to, these are the three people that I would think of, or if there was anything I wanted to give to somebody, then I would down that list of 3, yeah, would be the first group of people that I would think of. Yeah, you know, this video is not about giving advice on how to make friends, or how to maintain a friendship. This video is meant to be more of something that perhaps if you have gone through similar things like me, something to relate, like just know that, just be thankful that there's someone out there for you. Yeah. And yeah. And whether you have one friend, 2 friends, or 3 friends, doesn't matter. As long as anyone who's willing to be your friend, keep them close to you. And and yeah, treasure the friendship that you have with that person. Yeah. So yeah, this video was more of a ramble more than anything else lah. Okay. Yeah. So thank you for watching, and see you again soon.